You have to start learning that strength isn't your life anymore. It can be a part of your life. It can be a very meaningful part, but you have to learn how to recover at a high level and be more methodical with your approach to the barbell, the dumbbells, whatever training protocols that you're
Welcome to
using.
Muscle Moments. A few years ago, I couldn't wipe my own ass, get in a shower, or walk myself into a store. Multiple surgeries had taken me apart, and what got me back wasn't a diet. It was strength I'd already built. I'm your host, Dana Wildeboer, and I am obsessed with helping people become the strongest, most capable versions of themselves. I've been an athlete my whole life, and I spent decades working my way to the C-suite in corporate. Those two things, coupled with my own health journey, proved to me that strength is the one thing that impacts everything. Your energy, your confidence, your independence, how you age, and how you show up. That's why I coach the way I coach, and the reason I started this podcast. But now that we're into it, I can't wait for you to hear why people who focus on strength and movement as a pillar of their life love it so much, and how it helps them break through their stories and achieve their dreams. It's raw, gritty, and unfiltered. I'm done watching people settle for small when what saves your life is strong. I'm singing it from the rooftops starting now. This is Muscle Moments. Let's get into it. Today's guest built his entire career around a simple idea. Performance isn't about him, it's about how he can help other people unlock their potential. He's the founder of Our Sports Performance, based out of Tribe Wellness and Performance Center in Texas, where he works as a performance specialist helping people, athletes, and everyday humans alike feel and perform at their very best. He's also a father of 4, which means everything he knows about strength and performance gets tested at home, not just in the gym. He told us before that he hates talking about himself. So today we're going to make him do it anyway, but through the lens of the people he's coached, which includes Paralympians, globally ranked strength athletes, and football teams. The lessons coaching people and teams from all walks of life have taught him, and what he'd tell himself if he could go back 20 years. Welcome to Muscle Moments, Mark Rogers. How you doing? How was that intro?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. Sounded a little bit too much.
So humble, so humble. You know, and I know we're wholly aligned here, that strength is a strategy for life, but everyone defines it just a little bit differently. What's your definition of strength?
I would say it's one's ability to perform a desired activity or task. It's very broad. Depends on the age, right? If you're a high school athlete and you're trying to be strong enough to play football, maybe stronger legs, stronger hips, bigger torso. If you're, 50 plus range, which I'm getting really close to that, making sure that, things like going out on your daily walk, carrying in the groceries, putting the groceries up in a cabinet is a huge deal. So having the confidence, maybe not even ability, but strength gives you the confidence to perform the everyday tasks that you want to do. And then also when you throw in those hobbies that kind of, set your world on fire, that gives you a little bit of inspiration throughout the week that you look forward to on, your midweek hobby, whether it's, a softball game or, weekend warrior soccer game or whatever that may be, that you feel confident doing those activities.
I love that. Knowing that what you do in the gym makes you more confident to do what you feel like you're capable of, right? Like there's not that gap there. So you brought up that we're getting closer to 50, no big secret. I talk about my stage of life very openly, but I am curious how that translates from your personal experience into the work you're doing with clients. Are you still working with younger athletes, or for the older athletes that you're working with, what does their work in the gym look like?
Yeah, the holistic approach that we take here as far as getting people stronger, as well as helping them take ownership and facilitate their own ability to control their nervous system or expand their nervous system, I think goes a really long way to longevity. I do work with young athletes still. Really, the training is pretty consistent throughout all the levels. The templates are very similar it's how it's applied, right? It's how it's applied to each individual. The younger athletes can handle more stress, so they can have more adaptations to the sport that they're playing. The older population can handle the movements, but they don't need as much stress in order to elicit the adaptation.
So say
A
more.
training age,
What's that look
Yeah.
like on the program?
let's just say I have a cross country kid that's in college right now. He's doing sets of 3 with, anywhere from 85 to 95% on a safety bar squat. As someone who is 45 or 50, they may work up to a heavy 3 rep. Now, I wouldn't even call it a max, but a heavy 3 rep squat, and then call it the day because it's enough stimulus for them. Right. So the volume will decrease as the clients get older generally. And then also the percentages that they work with is not as heavy, mainly because of the ability of the individual.
Okay, there you go. Because it just takes longer to recover from that max effort stimulus versus your max effort today, right?
Correct. An 18-year-old's maximum effort might be closer to their 100%, whereas the 55-year-old's maximum effort may be, one day it may be 85%, one day it may be 95%. Sometimes they'll hit a PR, but it's not as consistent because it just depends on their level of current fitness and their ability to adapt and be able to get into the next session.
Yeah. And I'm going to build on this with another audience we haven't touched on, which is former athletes. And I'll use myself as an example here. Lots of strength training in my life, hit a peak about 10 years ago, crashed because cancer and other health issues, slowly built myself back up. Most of my clients are like, I don't want to lift like you. I don't want to lift with a barbell. But Dana, cannot find a dumbbell heavy enough to elicit the response I want, so that as a perimenopausal woman at the end of my estrogen life, I'm still building muscle. How do you work with athletes in that?
First of all, I tell people they don't want to lift like me because I'm an anomaly. I'm going to do things to myself that I probably would not put my clients through, and I'm going to test a lot of things before I let them do it. The amount of stress that I put on my system far exceeds what I would put a lot of my clients through for the most part. And finding dumbbells heavy enough for yourself can be a challenge if you are a very strong individual or your training age is a lot more experienced than most people. So a lot of them aren't going to reach that level. A lot of them don't have 10 to 20 years of experience with a barbell and or dumbbells and have had 700 pounds on their back. Mm-hmm. Right. So they're never going to get there, nor should they, right? Because that's not their goal.
Right. That is a conversation I have often. I'm like, you don't have to go that far unless you really want to. If that is the goal, we can get there. That takes it beyond lifestyle fitness, right? That takes it beyond strength as a strategy for life. That's like strength is your life.
Strength, that is a very key component there because, I've had to deal with these same demons probably that you've had because back when I was in my mid-20s, strength was my life. I attached my identity to it. That's what I did. And so I pushed the envelope as hard as I could every single time I was in the gym. Recovery wasn't an issue back then, or at least I didn't feel it as much as I do now. But as you get older, you realize that, man, I spent a lot of times under the bar and I can't do the things that I used to do. Boy, I sure wish I could, but I do not feel good the next few days if I try to push it. And so having that identity and being able to shift, yes, it's still my life because I work in the industry, but being able to separate what I used to do and put myself in that box of, hey, this is what a former athlete that tried to be a power lifter did for, a decade or so could do. Mm-hmm. You don't have that same identity. And so you have to change your goals. You have to change your strategies as you get older, because you have to start learning that strength isn't your life anymore. It can be a part of your life. It can be a very meaningful part, but you have to learn how to recover at a high level and be more methodical with your approach to the barbell, the dumbbells, whatever training protocols that you're using.
We are going to dive into recovery a little bit later for sure. Right now, I want to talk about our sports performance. You've built our sports performance around helping people excel in their chosen arena. What does that look like day to day?
With the individuals that I get to work with now, I can say that after being in the industry, in the private sector for almost 20 years now, I still have a good variety of types of people that I work with, from your general pop CEOs to your collegiate athletes to your wannabe high school athletes. Being able to create systems and keep them in place that helps elicit the training stimulus that we need for the adaptation.
That article that just came out in the Washington Post, they like researched over 100,000 individuals and found that the sweet spot is between 90 and 119 minutes a week. That's 2 sessions, right? That's 2 45-minute sessions.
2 sessions. And I would agree with that based on if you're pushing yourself at a very high level and the intensity is really high, 2 45-ish minute sessions or 2 60-minute sessions a week could get you some really good results, because that means you're actually learning how to recover. And probably if you could actually take yourself out of the gym and not just be chasing the dopamine high that you get from training and actually chase the adaptations, you probably feel really good. And you're going to do things outside of that to occupy the extra time that you would spend if you were spending 4 to 6 days a week in the gym, doing things that are actually more enjoyable or relaxing and or improving your cardiovascular health, because some people don't do that when they train with weights. They don't add that into their program, which would make their overall wellness levels higher, or their quality of life would be better. They're just addicted to the training itself.
Oh, for sure. It's like the runner's high. It's the lifter's high, I guess, right? The ego.
Yep. Hey, I've been living it for a long time.
It is an ego approach, though. It is not the smarter approach, especially for an aging population. In my opinion, you talked a lot about chasing adaptations. So if we're not chasing the lifter's high or the runner's high, what are we chasing adaptations? What does that mean?
Well, we create the stress through training, right? The adaptation that we want, is it to be stronger or is it to have more muscle tissue itself? And usually most people lump those together. When they think about the gym, they want to come, they want to get stronger, but they think, oh, my muscles are going to get bigger. For most people, you're not going to get super huge unless you put the effort into getting super huge, but you can get stronger. And training to get strong, you have to stress the tissue more than it's been stressed previously, and then you have to recover. Right. And a lot of people chase numbers. We had a bad habit. I'm not going to call it a bad habit. We had the mentality of chasing PRs for the longest. We still chase PRs, but some people only chase PRs, the number. They don't understand that it's actually the adaptation to the training that we're trying to get. And as a result of that adaptation, you're able to PR.
So adaptation could even mean like progressive overload, same weight.
Absolutely. It could be more reps, which is more volume. You could increase the load progressively. You could actually change the tempo. You don't have to increase the load sometimes. Sometimes you can change the tempo to create more stress. And a lot of times changing the tempo can create more stress without adding the load, which helps you recover a little bit faster. And your muscles actually enjoy that. And your joints actually prefer that.
Yeah, well, that control around the tendons and ligaments, right? It's not just that like fast fire.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, while we were prepping for this, you said you'd rather facilitate some other people's experiences than talk about your own. Where does that instinct come from?
Well, I think the instinct is literally, I've been fortunate enough to be in some really cool rooms in my lifetime and be surrounded by mentors that have, willfully, given time and efforts and provided education to me so I can be a better version of myself. And I think that it's never been about me. It's about what kind of change and what kind of, I don't know, what's the word? What kind of impact I can have on other people's lives as they move forward to increase their quality of life as well. Because if I'm just doing it just for myself, then I feel like the reach is very small. But I feel like if I can cast a net and keep, impacting people's lives and making them perform better and feel better, I think it just creates a universal positivity. Positive energy.
Everything.
Yeah. And I feel like if I'm just doing it just for myself, then that energy doesn't get expanded as much.
Yes. Well, give us a story, a client or an athlete you've worked with who changed the way you coach.
Well, I think the easiest, most prevalent person that's changed the way I coach is Lizzie Smith, a Paralympian swimmer, exceptional athlete in person. I know that her identity for the longest is tied up into the pool, but she's an amazing, an exceptional athlete, not just as a swimmer, super explosive. So, and with her background being a Paralympian, having to make the adaptations and just be more methodical, even more methodical in the approach to training. And and I've been training her for, Lord, I think 8 years now. So through 2 Olympics, and being able to recognize and realize how much work these professional athletes put in outside of our gym, and understanding that we are a resource and a tool, and that's it. Now, can we have more benefit to them than just being a resource and a tool? Of course. But understanding that when they come here, our job is to make sure that, one, we don't put them in an overtraining state, that we give them the stimulus that they need to make them better and more durable at their sport. And showing up, I've learned and been very grateful that I've attracted athletes that bring me lessons as well. It's not just me teaching them and being a resource for them, but them also giving me those lessons, and just the mentality that they come in and work. It's like clockwork. Professional athletes, they don't miss a session. They're not late for sessions. Mm-hmm. They come in, they do the work. They don't whine. It's a checkbox.
It's literally their job.
It's literally their job.
So,
and you're just a small part of that job.
That's key, right? As a coach, you're just a small part of that job.
Well, a lot of strength conditioning coaches, they think that they're everything, mm-hmm. right? And they try to make their program the most important thing in that person's life. And that can go to any general population client as well, is we are still just a resource that they see maybe 2 to 3 hours a week. They are on their own the rest of the time.
And they get to live life.
Yes. Awesome. But strength is life for us.
Strength is life for us. And that is why we're here. We're here to spread the word. So you're a father of 4. How has fatherhood changed the way you think about performance and strength?
One, setting a good example for my kids, making sure that they know how important it is to take care of your body, be strong for the long term. And another thing that I think my children have taught me is not everyone responds the same way. Different personalities, even in the same household, and that does carry over to the gym with different personalities in the gym. You have different people that respond to different types of coaching, just like you have different kids that respond to different types of parenting. Some of them need that hard-nosed, finger-pointing, dictator-like parent. And then some people need, they need you to yell at them. They need you get you through their sets. And then some of them need, just a little compassion and a little bit of patience. And I think that's probably been the biggest lesson that my kids have taught me, is not everyone's the same. Always keep an open mind and be patient with everyone, and learn how to work through those sessions with different types of personalities. Meet them on their level instead of trying to bring everyone to the same level that you're on.
That's great advice for the coach. Let's flip the script and think about it through the client lens right now. One of the biggest things I learned in my strength career was communication and how to ask for what I want, right? Like, I need spotters. I need this on the bar. I need help with my equipment. Like, someone please shake me into my briefs. But that transcended many different things outside of the gym for me. How do you work that lesson in for your clients?
Closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? I think my buddy Chris said that a long time ago, and it has stuck with me ever since. And I think that goes with almost everything in life, but communicating at a high level, being able to have your clients being able to be in a quote unquote safe space with you, like being vulnerable enough to have the conversation that, hey, this is what works for me. I need this type of direction. And then them being able to have a constant line of communication with you on a level that they feel that they're not going to get reprimanded for. We can joke around and tease a little bit in the gym, but all my clients know that they can communicate directly with me, and we're going to make shit happen.
Yeah. You have talked a bunch about recovery in this conversation. Recovery is something that is overlooked by many athletes at all levels. Tell us the importance of recovery and how someone can make this part of their life in and out of the gym.
So, Dr. Nelson says it all the time. One of the best ways to recover is a 20-minute walk. So getting those steps in, it seems like a silly little thing, but I'll tell you, when I do a 20-minute walk in the afternoon, 4 to 6 hours later after a training session, I feel amazing the next day. I recover at a higher level. we don't get to express the benefits of the training if we don't recover well. So learning how your body works, not trying to continue to dig the ditches in the muscles if we are already extremely broken down. So kind of having an internal dialogue with yourself, learning what works for you. There's so many modalities. The easy ones that I promote is going on your walks, making sure you get your steps in, and then also learning how to do quality breath work.
What does that mean?
So just learning how to take time for yourself, get, a couple 3 to 5 minutes of deep belly breathing at some point during the day. I promote with my clients if they have the opportunity and time before they start their warm up to do some belly breathing, hit some of those reset points that I teach them. And then even when they're done training, breathe it out, lay down, breathe it out, get your body from that sympathetic state. See if we can flip that switch, get you back down into your normal state. So we can help keep you more balanced with your nervous system. Those two things usually go a really long way. Everything else, is all individual preference. What works for you? Is it a sauna after training? Is it a hot tub? Is it, the cold plunge? Whatever those things, cryotherapy, anything, all those things do is just create another stress and adaptation, right? So it's just one more way for your body to say, whoop, there's a stressor. How do I handle it? Here we go. Now I'm back. Right. Mm-hmm. So everything that you do, a lot of the fancy recovery modalities that people are trying to promote and sell nowadays, that's all it is. It's just another stressor that your body gets to adapt to.
I want to talk about this breath work because we do speak about strength as a life strategy here at Muscle Moments, and breathing is core to life. Like if you're not breathing, you're dead. That's kind of the only alternative, right? So what can people learn from this breath work in the gym and how to apply it?
Well, holding your breath, that means you're stuck, right? Mm-hmm. You're in the fight stage or the fright stage or freeze stage when you're holding your breath. So that usually means there's more tension in the body. So allowing your breath to go through freely, usually the body loosens up. Now, if you catch yourself and you're in traffic and someone cuts you off and you grip the steering wheel really hard and you brace really hard, you're not breathing. I guarantee you're not breathing. So learning how to recognize times high stress situations where that your body would actually freeze up or tighten up, learning how to go back and find your breath in those moments. And it plays also a part in the gym while you're in the gym. In between your sets, when you catch yourself like just holding your breath when you should just be relaxing and taking some breaths. And also it depends on the type of training that you're doing. Like your breathing during training is super important. Now, if you're taking a 1 rep max and you got 800 pounds on your back, you're going to hold your breath because you're under an immense amount of strain and you're not going to be able to breathe through that, right? You have to hold the tension. But if you're doing a repetition work and you're just keeping your muscles under tension, your body will actually perform better if you learn how to breathe more efficiently while you're training.
And for those who are newer to lifting while here, what does breathing through the repetition look like? How do you work with clients on that?
Well, my buddy Coach K, I learned from him a long time ago. He has the sprinters go la, 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 la. And so I have been using that my entire training. And I teach clients when I see them clenching a jaw while they're doing a chin up or a pull, something that they're going to do more than one max repetition at. Hey, la, 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 la.
Like actually say it out loud while you're performing.
Yeah, la, 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 la. Yep.
Okay.
It sounds silly, but you'll be amazed at how well your muscles actually start contracting.
Okay. I'm going to try it. I've got a heavy day tomorrow. I'll let you know.
I do it a lot, specifically with my upper body presses, inclines and dumbbells and stuff. When I feel myself getting close to fatigue and trying to get up into my neck and traps and things trying to get out of position, then it actually puts me back in there. And then, it's just one of those silly little things that you never thought would be worth a grain of salt that makes a huge difference. And if you can get your muscles to be under the correct amount of mechanical tension, you're going to get more stress, which means more adaptation to the training instead of more pain or tension in areas that you don't need them in.
Especially in your traps, right? Like that's the number one spot where people lock up, even just being stressed in the real world, right? Like everything comes up into your ears.
Traps, and then usually that comes from the jaw actually tightening, which brings the traps up.
Clenching.
So, yeah. So all my clenchers and grinders out there have to work on keeping your jaw relaxed while you're lifting.
Big one. Just like let it separate a little bit. So I asked you to give me a question that we could discuss here. And the question you gave us is, what would you tell yourself 20 years ago based on what you know now?
Man, it's going to hurt. Realistically, so there was 2 or 3 things that I thought of when I put that question out. The one that came to the top of my mind was, don't chase numbers, don't chase dopamine, chase adaptation. Meaning, keep the ego in check while you're training, bring it out only when necessary in competition. But that's something that I have struggled with and sat with for, probably the last 2 years consistently, is chase the adaptation, stop chasing numbers, because as you get older, the numbers are going to gradually decrease anyway. Adaptation can always be there. You can always get a little bit stronger. It doesn't mean that you're going to lift, you're not going to have a 500 bench press for the rest of your life. You might. I mean, some people might, but being able to stress the tissue and get the responses that you're looking for is going to go a long ways if you're focused on the actual thing at hand.
So if 20 years ago you had that advice, would you have listened to it as what, like 25-year-old Mark?
Yeah, I also thought the same thing. Would I have listened? I probably would have taken it with a grain of salt. I probably still would have pushed a little bit, but I might have been a little bit smarter with my own training. I definitely can say that I pushed as hard as I could for as long as I could.
So pushing as hard as you can for as long as you can, you're leading me to believe you experienced some pain along the way. I believe that pain is a part of the human experience, but pain does not mean injury. Would you agree with that?
Pain does not mean injury. You can have pain without injury. Sometimes they are not mutually exclusive, but they can be one and the same.
Oh, for sure.
But that means hire a professional, know what you're doing, and actually set goals and try to reach one goal at a time. So I think that's where a lot of people have a lot of issues when their pain becomes injury, is they're trying to ride 2 horses with one ass. All right. They got all these goals. Dr. Nelson quoted that on one of his podcasts. Actually, it might have been in the Flex Diet, sir, but I can't forget it. Right. But it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, if you want to get stronger, that's your goals. If you want to lose weight, there's your goals. Can you do both at the same time? You can, but boy, it's really, really, really hard. And if you're pushing really hard at one thing, you can't trick physiology, right? Like if you're getting really, really strong, your VO2 max is probably not going to get really, really good at the same time.
And you're going to get really, really hungry. So you better like that's going to shift the nutrition game too, right? So
and you have to fuel. Like if you want to be strong and perform, you have to fuel the performance. You can't be in a huge caloric deficit and expect to get those gains. All right. And vice versa. You can't lose a bunch of weight and expect to have good performance numbers. Like it's just literally not feasible.
And certainly not as we get older. I find I work with clients exclusively over 40, and I find that many of them want to see the same results using the same patterns they did in their 20s. And it's just like, our physiology is different. Like you said, we can't beat biology. We have to learn how to work with it.
We have to work with it. And then once you figure yourself out, you know your mechanics, you know yourself, you know your strength, you know how well you recover or don't recover, you can start making those modifications to get the most out of your training. But definitely as you get older, it is tougher to recover from, and you just have to be more methodical and actually a little bit more intuitive with yourself. And the biggest thing, not just intuitive, but you have to be honest, right? You have to be honest with yourself, because if you're not honest with yourself about where you're at, you're not going to make progress, right? If you think you have a 300-pound bench, but you really don't have a 300-pound bench, but you keep pushing the limits and pushing limits, you're going to hit a brick wall at some point, right?
And I know for myself personally, where I've seen that show up is sometimes it just takes me longer to get into my working set. And so like I'll start my work, but like 2 warm-up sets down because I'm just not there. So if I were benching 135 might be like second to last warm up, but it becomes my first working set for however many reps, so that when I get to my last 3 sets of 5, I can be in my working range. So my reps are still there. The total load is a little bit less, but for me, that's been an adaptation that's worked.
Yeah, and working in, and we actually had that situation today where one of the trainers was squatting, and it called for I think it was 4 working sets of 3, and she's like, "Well, I'm counting this one set," and then we got to a number that we thought was her top weight that we wanted to load for the day, and it looked little less than stressful. I was like, let's do another set at that same weight and erase that other work set. So being able to auto-regulate is super important. The older you get, you don't need as many sets when you first start training in a program. Obviously, you can go 2 or 3 sets. You can count that 135 and you go to 155 and then maybe 175, and there's your 3 work sets of 3. But as you get stronger and more advanced, you're not going to elicit the same response if you count that 135 in the future. Then you're going to say, well, let me get another working set. Well, I know that I'm working at a high level, creating a good stress for my body to adapt from, and not just leaving something on the table.
And a bit of a personal side, was there a specific injury or something that happened when you're like, oh, fuck, all right, it's time to really think about this?
So my injury history is pretty short, 3 shoulder surgeries and a meniscoscope.
Okay.
After my 3rd shoulder surgery, I came out pretty confident. Like with each surgery, obviously you get better. You learn more things about yourself. You also learn better ways to do things. And also, put some magnifying glass on things you've done in the past that may have been, not as good, or gave you some insight into how to treat your body in the future. Well, I was feeling really good and I was doing some free squats, and in my brain, I was like, oh, maybe I will hit the platform again. Maybe I'll get back on the master circuit. And so I'd started I was in my 2nd week of a free squat cycle, and I blew my adductor out. And it was debilitating. It was one of the worst pains I've ever felt in my life.
And on week 2, imagine if you made it to week 8.
Yeah. So, and it was just one of those, it felt good that day. It was just hey, I'm not doing my job anymore. Screw you guys. And it did just one of those freak things that just happened. And then I was like, this is the universe saying, well, maybe you shouldn't get back on the master circuit and you should focus your training with a different mentality. And that injury, that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. Everyone, I think Brian Carroll wrote a book, The Gift of Injury or something like that. I think every injury is a gift, unfortunately, just depending on the severity. But for most people, unless you're a professional athlete, it's probably not a gift. But it makes you slow down, reevaluate, and do things better and work on things that you probably should have worked on before. But it makes you put that extra focus and energy into being more well-rounded in your training, which is exactly what's happened. Now I can do free squats pain-free, even though I have one less adductor muscle function.
So it never fully healed, but you don't feel good.
I actually went to the doctor and he's like, he said, unless you're playing professional hockey, he's like, we're just going to let it just do its own thing.
We have a few questions left here as we get into the wrap-up stage of our conversation. I'd love to hear from you a muscle moment, a time a movement taught you or someone in your orbit something bigger than the exercise itself.
I think the deadlift is the ultimate teacher. It's never been my favorite exercise. I love to hate it, and I also hate to love it. But it's the movement that just like in life, when you first grab onto the bar, it can feel heavy, it can feel overwhelming. And if you just give it a little tug, sometimes you feel like you're not able to get it, right? But for the most part, if you just create a little tension in the system, a little tension in your muscles and keep pulling, once you break gravity, it's over. And a lot of people don't take the opportunity to actually pull with intent to get it to break gravity. Because you never know what's going to happen once you actually get it moving. I've seen way too many people, clients, athletes, grab the bar and be like, oh, that's too heavy, I can't do that. But they never actually put an intended effort into it to actually see if their body could handle the load. So being able to stick with the tension and actually work through some tension has its benefits.
Being okay with discomfort.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's it. Get comfortable without being uncomfortable. But for someone who doesn't know what that feels like and maybe doesn't even know how to exercise that philosophically, like, what are you waiting for when you're like pulling against gravity? You're literally trying to defy gravity.
I'm looking for them to learn how to flex and just keep pulling it. Sometimes that bar is not going to move. That's totally cool. Maybe I misloaded the weight, but not usually that much. But for the most part, it's usually just enough that I know that they should be able to get it if they put an effort into it. And so what I'm looking for is for them to actually look inside themselves and find a little nugget of inspiration to actually want to do it. All right.
And that's the piece we need to take into our life, right? To find that nugget of inspiration that makes us want to do the hard thing.
Exactly. And, you know, ever since my quote unquote injury, it was a light bulb that's like, you know, everyone says embrace the suck. Do the stuff that you suck at, right? And so I've made it ever since then is do stuff that's hard every day. Like do something that's hard every day. You know, the rower, we do a lot of rowing. It's hard. It never gets easy, but it has a great return of investment.
Yeah, rowing's, I think, like, looks like calorie per pound, like one of the best exercises you can do to build cardiovascular health, develop strength, reaction time. Like it hits the whole system, I feel like.
It's once again, it's how you apply it. It's really good for strong people that want to improve their VO2 max and get some cardio in without going out and pounding the pavement and wearing their knees and hips and ankles down. So we do a lot of rowing, but that's one of the examples of things that's hard, that once you do it, you don't regret doing it.
You've given a lot of practical advice for the audience, coaches, and athletes alike. Any other advice?
The biggest advice I have is chase the adaptation and know why you're chasing it. Like find a goal, know what that goal is, be realistic and honest with yourself about your commitment to that goal, and then implement the steps it takes to get there.
And stick to the plan. What is your favorite song to work out to?
But right now, current favorite training song would be Bury Me With My Screams by Trivium.
I am asking each podcast guest to leave a question for the next guest. I am taking this idea from Stephen Bartlett with Diary of a CEO. And the question that was left for you, when was the last time you had a meal that was transformative?
Woo. That is a really tough question, mainly because we don't go out to eat. And every Saturday night at our house is steak night. Okay. So those are always pretty amazing nights on purpose. You know what? Transformative as in really awesome. I went with my oldest daughter to a club volleyball tournament in Spokane this past spring. And we stayed at this hotel that had a restaurant in it that had the best salad I've ever had in my life. And I swear I ate it 5 times of the week that I was there. It was perfect. So that was, I guess you could say that was transformative because I kept going back to the same thing because of the high protein content, the flavors, like it was perfect.
I'm super excited for the audience to dig in here. Lots of tactical tips and tricks and pro tips to help us become more effective athletes at every stage of life using strength and cardio, which is not something we talk about a lot here. And I'm really glad you brought up. So I'm grateful for your time. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. Look forward to seeing you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Muscle Moments. I hope you enjoyed it. This is just your quick reminder that any advice or information that has been shared on this episode is for entertainment purposes only. This is not medical advice from a healthcare provider. These are conversations with me and my friends about why strength is awesome. If you have questions about what your body is experiencing, make sure you find the coach or practitioner that's right for you. If you want to learn more about Will to Fit coaching, you can find the link in the bio.